I have never gotten anything off of a resume. Even back to my flight instructing job, I never sent in a resume. I went to that school. I had a good personality. We laughed and chit chatted all the time. And so when I got my CFI license, it's like, yeah, dude, you work here.
Hi, welcome to the ProPilot Playbook Podcast, where we give you the tips, tricks, and hacks to become a pilot faster and cheaper. You're really going to like this week's episode. We have a very, very, very special guest. I'm Mike Martin.
And I'm Sean Ritchie. Yeah, today's guest, Jabari Brown, is a very unique and talented young man. He's got a lot of stuff going for him. Also has a YouTube channel, Treezy2x, or times two time. Treezy, I guess, is probably what people are always coming up to you and saying. But a very talented young man at 18 years old, was already a CFI, had been through all his ratings and certificates super fast, and now at 20 years old is doing corporate pilot work. And we thought, yeah, it's just incredible. And what's nuts is we haven't heard his story yet. We've been saving it, so nothing got stale before the record button got hit. But there's so many tactics and the shortcuts and everything he did is stuff Mike and I are always preaching. And even some of his YouTube videos line up with direct lessons from the ProPilot Playbook course that we sell, right down to the networking on the back end. Just can't say enough good things about this guy. And I mean, Treezy, welcome to the show.
Yeah,
man.
welcome to the show. Well, it seems like you've done almost everything right.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks, man. So we think that your story is going to be really inspiring for our viewers and everything. So we kind of want to walk through your whole life here and just kind of start from the beginning on how you got interested in flying, and then tell us how you got into it so young, and how you're able to get where you've got in just such a short time. It's going to be really exciting. So you were born in Jamaica, correct? Is that right?
Right. I was born in St. Catherine, Jamaica. Yep.
Wow. And then when did you move to the U.S.?
I moved to the U.S. when I believe I was 8 years old. I was in third grade, and that's when I moved to the U.S. and lived in Fort Myers ever since.
Oh, great. Wonderful place. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So
Florida
you
in
get
general is a
interested?
great place to do flight training. I mean, there's so much stuff down there, and you can fly year round.
100%.
Yeah. So you had
Yeah.
that going for you right out of the gate. But did you always
Year round and in the morning in the summer.
Yeah, you're right. Was flying always something? Were you the kid that couldn't stop thinking about airplanes, building model airplanes, all that kind of stuff?
Well, I think flying for me, it has always been a thing that I was interested in. Not necessarily being a pilot, but I knew I always, ever since being a little kid, I tell people all the time, one of the things that got me interested in flying or just aviation was I come from a small country where not everybody got on an airplane or saw the inside of an airplane. I remember my neighbors saying, I've never saw the inside of an airplane. And, I was a little kid and I had flew to America many times. And so I didn't really realize, yeah, no, because in America, you don't need a passport to fly. You just get on a plane, you could go to New York. It's not a big deal. But to fly in Jamaica, you had to be going to another country. Not everybody had a visa or a passport.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so that was a big, yeah. Yeah, that was a big thing that a lot of people in bigger countries don't realize. There is no flight in Jamaica to Jamaica. So it was one of those things that was held at a high regard. You wore your best clothes to the airport. It was like a big event. And so I remember going to the airport and seeing the planes and pointing at them with my dad and saying, look at, like, that one has a more circular nose. The other one has a more pointy nose, and stuff like that really had me just glad to see airplanes.
Right.
Man, that's awesome.
Well, we've noticed the people who really excel in this career field, and and the training's easier on them for it. They just have a more fulfilling
Yeah.
life than when you have that passion as a little kid and you live and breathe airplanes. I mean, it makes going through that training fast. Everything about it is just fulfilling. And
100%.
yeah. So you get to the state. You know what? I don't want this to accidentally be answered. I got to know this, Jabari. You had, like I was mentioning when I introduced you, you did everything right. Your confidence is through the roof. It's like stuff you got it all figured out. Stuff the other people at your level don't know yet. I got to know, have you had a mentor through this whole thing? Has there been somebody on the sidelines? You got like an airline pilot uncle or father or something like that?
So I'm a first generation pilot. But
Wow.
definitely when I talk about a mentor, I give a big kudos to my mentor Z Big, and I'll send him this once it comes out. Z Big, I cannot thank him enough. He's an airline captain for American,
Okay.
and he has been my mentor at the start of my aviation journey and throughout. When I've been doing flight sim since I was a little kid on a Kindle to the MacBook and X-Plane, all that stuff. Big flight sim aficionado. And I remember I got on the plane going to Texas and I saw him. And once we were getting off, I walked past him and I said, I know how to fly this on the sim, the 737. He was like, yeah, really? He brought me in the cockpit and I'm like, all right, showing me the stuff around. And that's when I knew I wanted to be a pilot. Before I just knew I wanted to fly a plane once in my life. After that, I
Right.
knew I wanted to actually do it as a career. And we took each other's contact info down and he gave me his real phone number. I'm like, nah, this guy must really like me. He didn't just give me his email.
How old were you then? I
And
mean, what point in your life was this?
that was the summer just before my senior year. So
Okay.
I was 17 at that time, about to
No
start my
actual
senior year.
real flight time, just messing around on a
No,
sim.
I never flew inside of a general aviation aircraft ever. But I had hundreds of hours on the 737 on X-Plane, hundreds.
Awesome.
And so
And
he
and
he
wait,
showed.
so go back. I think we may have had a lock up there. You had
Okay.
go back, start whatever you said. You had hundreds of
Hundreds of
hours
hours
on
in
the
a flight
sim, I
sim.
think is
Yep.
what you said.
Yeah,
Start
I
there.
had I had no general aviation flying ever, but I had hundreds of hours on X plane in the 737. That was my start. Was saving up my $60 in sixth or seventh grade, buying X plane on my MacBook, where it was going like 5 FPS, and and flying X plane with the 737. I'm talking potato graphics. I couldn't run anything higher. Um,
Right.
and that's how I learned I could fly that plane from cold and dark.
Nice.
That
Nice.
is cool, man. So you ran into this captain at American, befriended him, he gave you a phone number, and you called this guy, and he kind of held your hand and mentored you through this whole thing.
Right, yeah. So as soon as I got back to Fort Myers and I was done with my trip in Dallas, I called Z Big. He, myself, and my dad were on the phone for about an hour or two, literally just talking. And we asked, "What is the first step? Like what's the first thing to do?" And he said, go down to your local airport, find a flight school, call, and get a discovery flight. He said that's the first step. They'll hold your hands and tell you kind of how to follow suit and start training, etc. But that first flight, see if you even like it.
Mhm.
And that's what I did. I went to the airport. I got a couple, which is something I had already done before because I knew a girl that we went to middle school and she showed me a video with her flying in an airplane, a Cessna, and I saw that and I wanted to do it. And I remember I called up, but the only thing, you look up plane videos and the only thing you'll ever see pop up as promo is ATP. So that's the
Right.
only thing I
Yeah.
knew. And I called ATP trying to get, that's the only flight school I knew of to get a discovery flight. And they said I couldn't do it until I was 18. And that was my start of my 10th grade year. And I wasn't able to do it. I thought, man, I got to wait till I'm 18. But I'm like, how did she do it? And she was like 13, 14 when we were in middle school.
Right.
And then I found the school that she actually did it at. And that's where I went and did my discovery flight.
Gotcha.
Was that at Pagefield or where was
Correct,
that at?
at Pagefield
Awesome.
KFM.
Yeah.
So
We're
how'd that first
familiar.
flight
We're
go?
familiar.
Oh yeah, how'd that flight go? Was it awesome?
It was, it's funny. I actually just watched the entire thing probably 2 days ago. I watched it, so I wanted to record the whole moment, and I had my mom come with me, and I felt really bad because she was afraid of small airplanes, but I'm like, man, I have to get this whole thing recorded, and she came along, was in the back seat, and we went up, flew over the beach. My shout out to my Discovery flight CFI. His name was Brad. He's at the airlines now, and man, he had me do steep turns on there, and it was hilarious because I was like, I don't know if I could do this. I felt so sick after that, and I came in and I landed. I did land on my first flight.
Wow.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your
Great.
mom was probably loving the steep turns.
Nah, man, she almost threw up. I felt so bad.
It's already weird being in a little airplane for the first time, but now you're doing a maneuver like that in the back seat.
Right.
Everything is like this tunnel vision out the front. Yeah, that messes with people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how old were you when this happened? I
was 17.
You were 17 during the wow. So you moved fast. So tell us how the training went. You obviously did a form of accelerated training for all your stuff here.
And you were still in high school, right?
And was this something that Captain the American captain kind of pushed you towards? You want to do this fast?
So
Fast means cheap. Fast means
it was a little bit of I stressed a lot going through high school. Every time I got older, every birthday, because I didn't know what I wanted to do yet. My mom is doing her nurse practitioner's license, and she's been a nurse forever. And I just always saw the medical field, and I was like, man, I might have to be complacent and just go to school for something in the medical field. But I knew I didn't really want to do it, and so I had finally figured out I want to be a pilot. And so it was a big lift off my shoulders, and I didn't want to waste any time. I just was so hungry for it, and I was so passionate about it that I tried to get into flight school literally at the right after I did my discovery flight, like right after. And
it could be pretty
I
addicting. That introductory flight.
man,
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's like a crack. Yeah, Mike.
bro, trust
Mike
me.
has a saying about a guy got an introductory flight for his birthday from his wife, and he says she might as well have gave me a crack addiction.
And so I wanted to go immediately. And what happened is I tried to get a loan from the flight school that I did my discovery flight at, and somehow I don't know how, but I couldn't get the loan, and I was like super confused. I'm like, dude, my parents have good credit. It's I don't know why, and I couldn't get the loan. I tried it multiple times, and I was really like, so what do you mean I'm not going to flight school right now? I wanted to do it right then and there, my whole senior year, and I couldn't. And I was really, man, I remember I sat and I cried, and I was like, wow, and I'm a very faithful person, and I sat and I was like, God, I'm such a servant, and there's no way that I'm not gonna do this thing, and I was like, maybe it's for a different reason. There's something better around the corner. That's not where God wants me to go, or at this time. And it actually worked out in my benefit. I didn't realize, but I said, okay, I realized that I didn't have to actually be in flight school to do the written. So
yeah.
after that, I just started hitting M0A, all the YouTube videos, I don't think there's a single mock check ride video on YouTube prior to 2023 or 2024 that I haven't watched.
Wow,
I
that's
listened
great.
to Jason Shepard's How to Pass Your Private Pilot Check Ride on Audible. I went to sleep with that book on repeat every single night. I promise you, there was not a single night that I didn't go to sleep with that Audible book playing. There was not a single time I drove my car without that Audible book playing. I'm so serious.
Wow.
So I became so knowledgeable in aviation. I always tell people, I'm like, dude, I'm way smarter than I am physically flying the airplane. Don't get me wrong, I'm good at both, but I was just so confident in my knowledge because I'm like, nobody has studied harder than I have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I took my test, I took my written test. All I did was my discovery flight, and I took my written test in October and got a 93. I think, is that 2 questions wrong or 3 questions wrong?
Awesome.
And knocked it out the park, and it was just all fun to me. And Z-Big, he told me about the Cadet Academy for American Airlines, and I was signed up with that, and so I knew in August, as soon as I graduated, I had to have my high school diploma to go there, and so I was set to start that in August.
Wow. That's
how long did it take you to get your private?
So my private, what happened was, it's funny. What I did is I just wanted to fly, so I would save up money and I would go to different flight schools to get discovery flights. I didn't know you couldn't do more than one discovery flight, but I'm like, okay, well, I'll go to different flight schools and they'll think it's my first time flying. And
because you're discounted usually, right? The discovery.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I saved up and I booked with one guy, I booked with another guy, and what I would do is I wanted to make aviation content, and I'm like, man, and I wanted people to think I was flying. So I would go and I would have I would wear my clothes strategically. I'm like, I would have a list of TikToks I was gonna make, and I would wear a sweater, then I would wear a shirt, then I would have a tank top. So I could record multiple TikToks with the different shirt, take one layer of clothing off, take another layer of clothing off. Nobody would know. They would think I was flying every day. You know what I mean? Because I
love
wanted
the energy you're putting into this, man. I can just tell by all your content. You got ground school you're selling.
Well,
You're very strategic in your processes.
trust me, man. And I was like, people are gonna think I'm flying all the time. Because the thing for me was, it really did hurt knowing that I felt like I was a private pilot, but I didn't have the license to show it, all because financially, I just couldn't thrust myself through flight school at the time.
yeah.
But I knew it was gonna just do something for me, and that's exactly what happened. Was a kid named Christopher. He was a part of EAA. I knew nothing about EAA chapters, but I knew about the big EAA because I applied for a scholarship from EAA National. And
Okay.
the kids saw my TikTok, and I knew what I was doing. I would tag Page Field because I'm like, somebody from the area might see it, and then they might invite me to come fly with them.
Yeah.
And he saw my TikTok, little kid. I mean, he was probably 10 years old, 11, and he said, "Hey, I fly out of Page Field. I'm with EAA and blah blah blah." He's like, "You should come to the Young Eagles thing and get a
Oh,
free
cool.
flight." And I'm like, Young Eagles, free flight. I'm like, nobody's giving away anything free in aviation. And I typed in Young Eagles, when I checked his page, I saw he was in airplanes. And I'm like, I gotta tap in with this guy. And I checked and I saw that they were giving away free flights. I signed up immediately, and I had my mom. My mom was probably supposed to work that day. I told her, I said, no. It said your parent had to be there the whole time. I said, we're going to EAA on Sunday, and I went, did my first flight with David Burns, and we went up. I came in. I told him, I said, I want to fly the ILSN, and I flew. Yeah, I couldn't believe. I couldn't believe
Yeah,
it's
like
like one of
3
those things you
hours.
set up on the sim, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the ILS everyone talks about, and I flew the ILSN right on the marks, down to minimums, and landed the airplane. And after that, I was there talking to the members, and they told me about Thursday night build nights. I'm sorry if this is a long story,
No,
but I
it's
just
great.
want to stress this for EAA. I think this is a big thing
No, it's an
for
amazing
aviation. I would not
program.
be here without EAA.
Okay,
And
we'll definitely put a link to the EAA stuff in the
oh yeah,
show
Yeah.
description here.
and I made it
Yeah.
a mission. I always felt so indebted. I'm like, I have to keep screaming the name of EAA. That's the only way I could repay them. And they told me, hey, come on Thursday, we have build night. And I'm like, oh really? And so I couldn't, man. Sunday to Thursday felt like the longest gap ever. That and that was the first week of school or something like that. And I couldn't wait to go. And I went on Thursday. They invited me to fly with them the next Thursday, and I skipped school to go fly to the Old Farts. If you're in Florida, you know about the Old Farts Flying Club. And
Well, tell everybody what that
that
is real
just
quick.
well, the Old Farts, it's a group of older, I'm like the youngest old fart member, but it's a group of airplane owners that fly to go eat somewhere at airports in Florida all over every Thursday.
Oh,
Normally in the season when the snowbirds are down.
awesome.
Yeah, that's headed by
So you
Roger.
joined that,
Roger
and then you were getting free flight time through those guys too.
I just met people. It's just a rolling effect of just meeting people, meeting people, meeting people. I met my guy Richard, who just catapulted my career in the Aerostar. You know, I flew hours upon hours upon hours with him in the Aerostar before I'd ever started flight school. You know,
Well,
and
that's awesome. That's a cool
yeah,
plane too.
yeah, and so after that, I just kept going to EAA, and they gave me a scholarship. So EAA, my chapter 66, we had a $11,000 raise scholarship, and I was the awardee of that. As soon as I graduated high school, they told me on my last day of high school, and as soon as I was done, June 10th was my first day of flight training at Flight Fast Track in Punta Gorda. That was the most cost effective and time efficient place to go to because I had to leave to the American Airlines Cadet Academy in August. August 4th was my start date. So I had to get it done in 1 month. And
You had to
I
have
remember
your
calling.
private in order to start American's cadet program. They want you to have your private. Is that what you're saying?
No, I didn't need to have my private, but it would have cut the cost down and made my time there shorter. So I
Gotcha.
wanted to have that private done.
Yeah.
And yeah, I knocked it out with my instructor. His name is Jack Callahan, and really one of the greatest guys in aviation, honestly. And he helped me out a lot, got me through. I was his first ever private pilot student. To this day, he says, "Man, honestly, I was kind of spoiled having you as my first student because I had an expectation for everybody to solo in 10 hours. I got my license right on 40 hours, exactly 40 hours. And so he was expecting everybody else to be like that,
Right.
not realizing that it was above average because I was his first student. And so I got my license in probably 3 weeks. I was ready by the 28th. My check ride was on the 14th. So I started, just slowing down to not be rusty for not flying.
Oh man,
No, that's awesome. 21 days or right around 20 days. That is true accelerated private. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about accelerated training.
Let me walk this back. Hold on.
Go ahead, Mike.
I'm going to say something profound, man. So when I'm listening to you, I am so excited to hear your message and what you're saying for this reason. So obviously, Sean and I have talked to a lot of flight school owners. We talk to people that want to be pilots all the time. I'm in the loop with all this stuff. And if you ask any flight school owner anywhere, what is some of the biggest challenges that you have? They always bring up the students that just want to fly the plane, but they don't want to study, right? Yep. This is a reoccurring theme that you hear their parents are paying for it. They want to be a pilot. They don't want to put the work in on the ground. They just want to get in the plane and they want to fly. And then it's a challenge. And, some of these schools are requiring writtens to be done before you even start for this reason. Right. It's just it's a big problem. And here you are, the exact opposite. I mean, exact opposite. And the direct result of that is absolutely phenomenal. And this is so inspiring because there's so many people that watch our channel that they want to get into flying, and the number one email we get by hands down, or any coaching, whatever, is, I always want to be a pilot, but I don't have the money, right? How do I get the money? What do I do? Well, how do we finance it? What? And your story, first of all, is so basic because YouTube wasn't around when we were coming up, and the amount of information available for free online, overlaid with these flight simulators, is
I didn't pay $1. I did not pay $1 to learn anything All that ground training
Man.
was free, all of it. And I would go on King Schools, and I went on the King Schools free PPL. You know, I hope I'm not
Right.
ruining this for other people, and they're like, "Oh, we got to get rid of this."
Yeah.
It's been around for a
Yeah.
long time, but I would go on
Right.
free King Schools thingy and just do the practice tests, and that's how I learned. The first time I paid money was to take the written test, and EAA refunded me the money after you pass your written test, so that was completely free.
Nice. So this EAA
Wow.
scholarship,
Wow.
folks are going to want to be clicking on the link that's down in the show description here. What all did that entail to be able to, get that scholarship, and what all did
That's
it
a
pay
good question.
for?
That's a good question, because I always remember to I always forget to include a very important part of that is including that scholarship. So what does it entail getting the scholarship? Well, I think you have to be between 16, about to turn 17, so you can obviously get your license. You have to get your license within a year of getting the scholarship. Um, uh, you've got to just really show potential. That's really the big thing, because if you don't get the PPL within the year, I believe your chapter does not get another scholarship for like a year or 2 years. So you always want to find the person who's going to be able to go get it. And it's the Ray Aviation scholarship. It's different from the national scholarship. So this one is being given.
Each
Each
chapter
chapter.
has some money to hand out as they.
Not all chapters. My chapter is a gold chapter. But select chapters do have it. I don't know which ones do, but select chapters. So definitely research to see if you're with one. But I always forget that my headphones. I have a pair of Lightspeed Zulu headphones. I got those from being a part of that scholarship. Once you get your private, they send you a pair of Lightspeed Zulu headphones, and then, that's big. That's what are
Right.
those, $1,000 or something?
Yeah, that's
So,
Heck yeah.
Bo's direct
oh yeah.
competitor in the
Yeah.
headset market. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a big deal also, and it paid for all my training. I was able to, because I didn't need much grounds. That's why I tell people, I'm like, dude, do the online ground school stuff, because I didn't have to pay for ground lessons. All my ground lessons were mock check rides. I just told my instructor Jack, I said, look, just treat it like it's a check ride. I said, I'm ready. Right now I'm ready. I just need 40 hours. So all these grounds treat like a mock check ride, and we probably did 4 hours of ground total.
So the scholarship covers all the flight training, but not necessarily like an online ground school or something, basically is what you're saying. But that's like $300. You're talking, that's not even a big deal, but it covers all the flight training. Like, I mean, it could be 10,
Yeah, I think
grand, 10, 12 grand to
I
get
think
a
it
private.
probably would. Yeah, it was 11 grand. And it might be different now because they do surveys to see what the rates are moving up at. I think it probably would, because what they do is they give the money in stages. I think it's 3 different stages. Once you reach different points in your training, and they would give it to the head of the chapter, would pay the flight school. So if you needed your ground school, the head of the chapter could just give you the money for the ground school. So I think you could pay for a ground school with that also. Yeah.
And is this just for private, or does it have to be a
PPL?
Okay, this is just private. Does it have to be a 141 school?
No, Part 61 is the school I went to.
Wow. So a lot of these scholarships are based on that. They want to make sure it's an organized. You're not over with Jim Bob McGillicuddy's School of Aviation.
That's right.
And
that was a big thing that I ran into when I was applying. I was applying for a whole bunch of scholarships, and that was a course accredited university, and I was like, yeah,
no better way to spend too much money and go super slow.
Yeah. So, and that's, and I want to take a time out to really give a big shout out to the flight school, Flight Fast Track. Shout out to Dave and Craig and Punta Gorda. They really stuck to their words. They got me through in time, and they run a really good business there.
A private in 3 weeks, that's quite a feat. That usually,
and that's very average there. That is very average. That's not unnormal there.
Right. Well, we have a few schools we're always recommending on ProPilot Playbook, and that's what we're shooting for. Like I just mentioned, in the accelerated private, 21 days. That's private in under a month. You could run into issues with scheduling a check ride with the shortage of DPEs, but as long as the school has got everything under control, and got their
That's all they can do.
yes, got their stuff together and scheduling
Yeah.
DPEs appropriately. So then you move on to, did you end up going to American's cadet program then, or did you stick around and do instrument?
Yeah, so due to how efficient it was, I was thinking, I'm like, man, do I really want to leave this place? It was a great relationship, really efficient flight training. I'm like, do I want to leave? But the thing was that I had a loan through American, which I was able to go and do the flight training. I did so much training there. Like, I flew probably 100 hours in like a month and a half or something. And
They're
all my
probably doing,
flights.
they're probably doing like a combined thing. You're working on instrument and commercial kind of together.
Right, right.
Stuff. Yeah.
And I was able, when I realized and I was back home, I realized, wait, I knocked out all my commercial requirements and my instrument requirements together, basically.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I was pretty much done with everything. So I came back and I did my instrument check ride within a week of being back home in Florida in October, I think, October 18th. And then after that, I just time built in a Cherokee 140 to get to my 250, and I did some time in a 150, also Cessna 150. And after that, I was at my 250 December 18th. I did my commercial check ride, and I was a commercial pilot.
Wow.
After that, I was pretty much ready for CFI, but my check ride date was out in March 30th. So I'm like,
yeah, we've heard a lot
March 30th. That's pretty far out there. I'm like, that's fine. It'll give me time to save, because at that point I was paying out of pocket. So I had to save up money and stuff. I'm like, that'll give me enough time I'd never had a job before other than I did music and stuff like that, and that's how I made money. I'm like, okay, I'll just go get a real job, work hard, save up money till March, study, because I had to do those 2 written tests, and take my CFI check ride. And that's exactly what I did. And I got it right before my birthday. My birthday's in April. So I was still 18.
Well,
wow.
That is so awesome. I love these stories. And I'm trying to do the same thing with my son. He soloed on his 16th birthday.
Wow.
His 17th birthday is coming up here, September 20th. We got his check ride scheduled for a private, but I mean, he's going to be turning around doing his instrument. The original plan was to do the instrument check ride the next day, but we're going to push that. We're going to push that a little bit. But I love hearing these stories, man, because if you go into this thing with some strategy, passion, and knowing exactly what you want, I mean, everybody could do it the way you did it. And
absolutely.
And the other thing is, the reason why I wanted to know, back to the whole did you have a mentor thing, like there's so many little things you're talking about in your videos you're putting out. Like you just said you went and worked and made money so you could finish this. You were working at the FBO, right? Is that what
so I tried. I did try. I went and I tried. I did an interview.
You didn't take a
with
paycheck.
The FBO.
You went back.
Right. So I did an interview at the FBO. It was 2 interviews, and the thing that made me not get the FBO job at Page was because they knew I was a pilot, and it sounded like I just had a bit too much progression, and they felt like I wasn't going to be there for long. And so that's the part they wanted, a bit more longevity. They're like, he's going to get his ratings and go get a flying job. So I ended up working at RSW with United. So I was still in aviation, but it was a bit different because I was brushing shoulders with pilots, but they didn't have boots on the ground, if you get what I'm saying. They can't throw me in a 121 carrier at 18.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you got your CFI. Did you immediately get a CFI job then?
So back to the social media thing was I got my CFI license, and I already had tons of people reaching out to try to fly with me.
Cool.
But I'm like, yeah, I'm not a CFI yet. And as soon as I got my CFI license, I had a buddy up in New York who found me on TikTok, and he said, hey, I want you to be my instructor. And he came down, he took a flight down, and he was like, I want you to be my instructor. And I said, okay, well, here's the thing. The flight school said they can't hire me yet because they don't have the demand in students to give me a job. I said, what we can do is I can have you talk to Craig, the owner, and I could talk to Craig, the owner, and say, look, if I bring in my own students, can I be hired to use the airplanes basically
Great idea.
because I'm not taking away from you? And he said, yeah, I see no problem. And so that's how I started. That's how I got hired, was because I had my own students. And so for a while, I just had people from social media and people I went to school with that I trained.
Man,
And that's
that's
how I
another
got my
great.
CFI job.
That is a great tip for our viewers, because in certain areas of the country right now there is a low demand for CFIs. It's difficult to
Right.
get a job, but you thought out of the box, and you brought business, and any flight school owner is probably going to it's going to be attracted to them. They're like, well, if I hire this guy, I have to find him work. If I hire this guy, he's bringing business with me, and I'm making money. I mean, that's a great
100%.
hack right there. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Awesome.
And that's exactly what I did.
The other thing
Um,
I've noticed you've figured out, and I don't know if it was from your American captain buddy, but you figured out the power of networking in this small career field we're all in, and
Yep.
how not burning bridges is important. And
very.
early on, it was getting you rides in airplanes before you probably even have a logbook to put an hour in. I mean, yeah, networking is everything. So how has your what you figured out with this networking thing now, what are you doing now? What is this CFI job spun you into?
So, I always loved instructing, and you go through aviation, you hear people, they're like, I want to skip CFI. I want to get a flying job immediately as soon as I get 251 hours. I wasn't that person. I wanted to be a CFI.
Right.
If I got a corporate job immediately after hitting 250, I was gonna kind of like, I wanted to do the CFI thing. And so I was always online and doing little things, and so I would have people all over the country reach out to me to get like online ground lessons, like through Zoom or Google Meets, things of that nature. And so that's what I would do, and I started doing things like that for the online ground school. And I knew so many people in aviation who, with EAA, I met so many plane owners that I was able to instruct independently for people who don't had their own airplanes.
Oh, that's
Oh,
powerful.
great.
So that
That's
was
good.
that was major, man, because I just knew so many people. And then, they have friends, and with the old farts, all these guys have airplanes. And that's how I started my independent thing. And with the online ground school, I just kind of got to the point where it was getting pretty big in December. It was getting really big and a lot of work for me. And I'm like, man, I'm saying the same thing at 2 o'clock, at 4 o'clock, at 6 o'clock, at 8 o'clock. How about I just create an online ground school? That's what I used, and I could have it right there. I can even explain the things better because you have an actual graphic going along.
Right. Yeah.
And I just say it one time. The people pay way less. You're paying a fraction of the cost. If we were doing it hourly, you're paying me 3 times as much per hour. While if you do it and pay monthly, it's 1/3 of that. You have it
Yeah.
for the whole month. If you're effective, you could really just pay one time and knock everything out. Um, and that would save me a lot of time and help a lot of people. And so that's why I came up with the Integrity Aviation Online Ground School.
Wonderful.
It's just awesome, man. Everything about your story is just everything start to finish, dude. You did it right. I mean, I got no criticism to like, well, you could have did this. Or, why don't you try that?
Thank you.
You should be coaching us.
Well, I mean, that's what a lot of we do. We have this coaching call now with the ProPilot Playbook.
Mhm.
It's one of the products we sell every week. You can be on there asking us questions, and it's a lot of the questions are the same. Everybody hits the same stumbling blocks, the same potholes in the road on this journey.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, every turn you made was the right direction. I love it.
Yeah, it's like the motivational speaker, Gary Vaynerchuk. I like that guy. I've heard him do some speeches, and he's like,
Yeah, Gary
I'm
V.
not saying anything new. He's like, I'm like Aerosmith up here. I just reflect the same shit over and over again, for people to listen. But okay, so you're doing the ground school, you're making money doing that. You're instructing your own students. You're meeting guys with planes. I mean, your career is just starting to explode based on networking and all that. And before we move on to this corporate gig that you got, I want to think it's important too to know that the reason this interview was possible is one of our coaching students, Brandon. Shout out to Brandon. He's been in some of our videos. He's a good friend of ours. He's a South Florida guy. He's studying for his writtens, and he's using some of our techniques, and he's doing that at the airport. You got to study somewhere, right? So he's studying at the airport.
Yeah.
So he runs into you. You guys get to talking. He introduces you to us, and here we are, all through grassroots networking. It's really, really cool.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Big,
so
big,
so
big.
tell us how'd you get the corporate gig?
So again, TikTok. When it comes to like if I start from the beginning of it, really it was me doing TikToks. I met a friend of mine called O2O Manny. He's pretty big on aviation TikTok. And he and I were studying together back when we were even, student. I was a student pilot, he was a private pilot. And he lives in North Carolina, and he was coming down to Florida to stay at the house that I'm at right now with my captain Darius, and they were here by FXE, and he said, "Hey, we could probably fly over and come see you in Page." And I'm like, "All right, yeah, cool, man." So they flew over one Sunday. I wasn't familiar with Darius at all. I wonder if he's here, if he could probably pop in and say hey, but I wasn't familiar with them. And they flew over. I just thought Manny was coming, and then there was Darius, and so we were there talking. Darius is Jamaican also. I'm like, ah, cool, young guy like me. Also, he's 21, and he was flying jets, and I'm like, dude, how did you get into flying jets? And we just were there talking, made a good relationship, followed each other on Instagram, and then sometime later, he hits me up and says, hey, man, if you're available, I could get you to talk to some people who could get you in some jets, etc. And that's how I went on, got my type rating on the citation, and then later on, we just met a guy through Facebook who was looking for citation pilots, and that's literally how we started. At least with the guy that we work for now, that's how we started. Was a Facebook post that we saw.
Wow.
Networking again.
Networking.
Getting out there
Yeah.
and talking to
But
people.
but really, really, this really boils down to hard work and motivation. It really is.
Right.
Oh yeah.
You applied everything. You took every resource available from you, starting with the internet, YouTube, social media, and then you just applied yourself. You hit your training hard, and then you use that to leverage a jet job. So tell the viewers now. So you've done this. You've pulled off this unbelievable course of action over the last few years. You've landed the jet job, and you're doing it, right? So tell us about your job, and is it, because it happened so fast, is it what you thought it was going to be? Now you're a professional pilot now. Yeah, I mean,
Right. At 20 years old, you can't be a captain yet because you got to be 23 to be an ATP. But,
Right.
yeah.
Tell us what it's like.
Yeah, man, it's great. It's a lot of fun. Just the environment, being around who you're around, and seeing the things you see, and it's like, wow, this is normal life for some people. And then I mean, just being in a jet, moving as fast as you are, and flying as high as you are, and seeing how a couple thousands of feet really changes your fuel planning. That's a big thing. So I enjoy it. There's not a second that I don't love, and I tell people all the time, I'm like, it feels great having a job where when I get told, hey, we have a trip a week from now, I can't wait till that date, because I know so many people who Sunday comes and they're like, and I've got to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, and I just feel really blessed. There's not a time I don't pinch myself and really uh say, wow, man, I'm blessed.
That's
Yep. I
awesome.
remember those days driving to the airport. I think about the guys who go into
Yeah.
some cubicle 5 days a week and get the life sucked out of them underneath fluorescent lights. And I would be driving into the airport going, I get to go fly a Learjet today.
Yeah,
Dude, it's
yeah.
great. It's
So
it's great, and we always have to just think and say, man, there are people who wish that they could do something they loved, and they get compensated well for it too.
Right. Yep.
yeah.
Well, it all starts
So
with
so
what
what
you
were you
started with, having a burning desire of knowing exactly what you want. And then you
Right.
accidentally stumbled into the second most important part of thing, which is what Mike and I do, which is finding a mentor. Do not start any journey without a good map. You know, you're going to get lost or waste a whole bunch of money trying to get to where you're going. And that's what the
Yeah.
whole ProPilot Playbook thing has always been about. And that's really why we wanted you on the show, because you are a shining example of what we're always preaching.
Yeah. And if you wouldn't have used your personality and connection there to you could have walked right past that pilot on that flight on American Airlines. And
One, I almost did. I almost did. I'm a big Formula One fan, and I was watching the French Grand Prix was going on that day, and I was kind of upset that our flight was that day because I don't miss Formula One for anything, and they didn't have a TV on that flight. And on landing, I was able to catch the end of it, and I'm like, man, I don't feel like really talking to this guy because I want to see what Lewis Hamilton's gonna do. But I said, no, let me tell him that I do flight sims, and yeah, I don't. I tell them all the time. I say, man, I'm like, I don't know. I can't say for sure that I wouldn't have been in the field or chose aviation, but I'm glad that I met you when I did, because that weight off my shoulders as soon as I met him
Yeah.
was great. And he did send me I think before my commercial, he did send me a check to help in some flight training. So he did
Oh,
wow.
wow.
also. Yep.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay, so what a story. So there's probably going to be thousands of people, young and old, watching this video. We got quite a following now. And
Yeah. Yeah.
they're going to be thinking, man, I want to do it just like Jabari did. What would you tell them? What's the best advice you could give them to somebody that has 0 hours or very low time and they're wanting to break into the business, you think?
What I would say, because I get this question a lot, so much so that even on my Instagram I have those short responses where I just have it typed up and somebody texts me something, I'm like corporate, and I just press it and it just ends it exactly what I normally say. I would say, man, honestly, get your feet wet. Like, you have to live in aviation. You have go make those friends that are genuine connections that you have with them, because those are the guys that are going to help. They might get a jet job and they can talk to the chief pilot about you, or they have a friend who has a friend who has a friend. I've never gotten anything off of a resume. Even back to my flight instructing job, I never sent in a resume. I went to that school. I had a good personality. We laughed and chit chatted all the time. And so when I got my CFI license, it's like, yeah, dude, you work here. It's not a let's sit down and have a talk. So I would really say just network with people, and it's as simple as just asking them a question that you genuinely have, like, hey, how long have you been flying that plane for? Hey, why do you have two N numbers? That's exactly what I said to Richard when I met him. He had a Stairman and it had two N numbers, a blue one, which was Navy, and the other one, which was Civil. And after that day, we became great friends and flew all the time. And I met so many clients through Richard.
Wow.
That's
That's
awesome.
great advice. Yeah,
Yep.
very great.
Jabari, you are a very talented young man. I know you're going to have an amazing career, and we'd love to check back in with you here someday on the show, or maybe we can be on your show, be on your channel.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great.
Do you think, I mean, what is your plans? Everybody probably asks you this, do you think you'll stay corporate, or are you going to jump to the airlines, or what do you think?
Very hard, man, and it's very hard to say now. Uh, I feel like a lot of things for me have always been kind of just roll as it goes, and it
Yes.
kind of just chooses me. I think the obvious thing would be the airlines. I do think there are great corporate gigs out there. If you get on a global 7500 and you get to be a captain on one of those, I think that might be a great gig. Um, but I think the airlines seem a bit more secure. Um, but I just never know. I have my ears open and eyes open, and I'm very uh open to hearing. I ask people all the time. I saw some airline pilots at Banyan the other day, and I was like, "What do you guys think? Like, what do you think I should do once I get there?" The big benefit to me is that I have some time to, I get to see the cars moving around the roadblock before I get there because I'm so young. So
Mm-hmm.
that has been my big advantage, is that I don't have to make the decision yet because I'm actually not at that age to go to an airline or
Yeah.
anything like that. And this is exactly what I said that I wanted to do when I was at 500 hours. I said, I'm so young. My advantage is I could do corporate at the start. Once I get all my things done, I could do corporate, build some jet turbine time,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
I'll be way more competitive once I go to the airlines versus somebody doing CFI dual given in a 150 for 1,500 hours.
That
Yeah.
would be my advice. Keep doing what you're doing. Get to your 1,500. Go ahead and go to the airlines. Spend 2 or 3 years there. See what you think of it. See if it is your jam or not. Because then you're not wasting that time. If you don't like it, you can always come back to the corporate world. But if you do want to stick around, now you're already in there at the beginning of that seniority, because everything is seniority.
Exactly. That's what scares me about, I'm like, what if I choose corporate and I'm there for 5 years and I'm like, nah, the wrong decision. I'm like, man, that seniority hurts because you just wasted 5 years of seniority. So that's what do you agree with that, Mike?
I can't think. I was sitting here while you were talking and answering my question, and I'm like, I can't think if there's a better way to answer that question than what you just said. I really do, because we get a lot of these folks, in our coaching, or reach out to us that say, I think I want to do this, and should I do this? I think I want to be an airline pilot, or I think I want to go corporate. I think this is a better. And then I'm like, man, it doesn't matter. You need to focus on you right now in this moment and doing a good job right here in the present. And you put it in words, things just kind of fall in place and they feel right. And then you do what at that time, you make that decision at that time. You don't really just, laser focus on one thing, because you may miss something along the way on the journey.
Yep.
100%. And like I said, I'm very religious, and one of my biggest things is just I say, if I get in a hard situation, I say, God, is this your will? And a lot of the times it just falls the way the puzzle should be, and I'm like, yeah, that's not what I thought was going to happen, but it actually worked out best for me.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Happens all the time.
Right. Well,
all the time.
Yeah, thanks again for coming on the show. And we had some thunderstorms there in South Florida that disrupted our connection, but we got
so
it all
surprised,
together.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, we're looking forward to having you on again, and we'll look forward to being on your channel.
Yep.
I look forward to it also.
If you have a question you'd like us to answer, you can email us at podcast@propilotplaybook.com. And we'll see you again next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks a lot.